Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. So we have a very fun episode today, and I want to introduce you to Ashley Cox. Ashley is a leadership mentor for ambitious women business owners who have a team but no time. So Ashley, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kristina. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm excited for a really fun conversation today.
Me too. So before we get started, why don't you tell us just a bit about yourself so we get to know you a little bit?
So I have been in human resources and leadership development for almost 20 years now. And I got my start in the corporate world working for companies like Kroger and J. Crew, and then eventually decided I want to start my own thing. And I started my company, Sprout HR, in July of 2015, which was 9 years ago almost now. And that just sounds so unreal to say. I've been on my own for almost as long as I was in corporate. I don't know what weird time continuum universe situation we're living in, but that's the reality. But just this past year, I actually made a pivot in my business, and I stripped away all of the HR consulting functions just to niche down and focus on women's leadership development. It is where I thrive. It's where I create the most impact in the world for my clients. And it's where I know that my skill set is needed and really just important the most.
That's so awesome. Such a big transition too. So what was that like for you? I can see it being very scary. What was it like?
I will tell you, it was not just like one day I woke up and was like, hey, I'm just going to make this big transition. It was years in the making. It was years of being discontent with the work that I was doing, feeling like I was being pulled away from the work that I knew I could create a deeper impact with, and being really tied into the identity of being an HR professional. And identity had so much to do with holding me back that was really what I had to work on with my coaches, with my therapist, with friends and colleagues, and talking about my clients even call me HR Ashley. So like, how does one not be HR Ashley?
Yes.
So it was a scary transition. It was definitely years in the making. I had to rebrand my business because one cannot be called Sprout HR if one does not offer HR services.
Very true. Very true.
So I got a lot of feedback from my clients and ideal clients, and they talked about how, because I support and focus on women's leadership development, they wanted to see my name on the business, because that was a woman owning her space, owning her voice, owning her leadership. And they thought that was really powerful. So I made the transition from Sprout HR to Ashley Cox Leadership Mentor, and it has never felt more aligned and more significant.
That is amazing. That it's so funny how peeling away the identity that maybe not on purpose, maybe accidentally was formed, and understanding what your real identity is and how freeing that can be and how much benefit you're going to get from it and your clients are going to get from it too. So absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And the funny part, I'm going to tell this quick little story because this is just part of it. Like, I kind of realized I never wanted to be an HR generalist or a regular kind of HR practitioner. I got forced into that role because of a lot of different things going on, but I needed to step into this role to fix a situation that the company was dealing with. And they said, you're the best person for the job. You're really creative and innovative. You got great relationship building skills. Like, these are the things we need in this. And I was like, I don't want to go. Please don't make me. But my HR career really began in talent training, development, leadership mentoring. So that was my original roots and my passion. And then I kind of got stuffed into this world, and then I created a whole business around it. And then I had to, untie myself from identity politics and then get right back into the work that I was meant to be doing.
Amazing. I love that story. It's so great. It actually leads so well into our topic today, to be honest. So when Ashley and I first met, we got into just a fun conversation and we started to talk about how some of the things that we were actually criticized for as children or maybe early in our career turned out to be the thing that has become our superpower in life. And so, Ashley, you kicked us off. So why don't you tell us the story a little bit about how you got told you talked too much?
If you can relate, I want you to just put your hands in the air right now that you ever were told you talk too much. And I know you're probably sitting alone or you're on your run or you're, making dinner for the family or whatever, but you go ahead and put your hands in the air because I bet that there are a lot of folks listening who have that shared experience. But when I was growing up, I had the gift of gab, as we like to say. And every single teacher all throughout school, on every report card or note home, always criticized me. Ashley's a fantastic student. She gets great grades. However, she talks too much. And so being told this year after year through elementary school, through middle school, through high school, really had an impact on how I showed up in the world and what I felt like I was allowed to say and how I was allowed to use my voice. And so that naturally carried over when I graduated from college and I went into management and I was worried, I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to say the wrong thing or say too many of the things. And I mean, just jokes on them because now I just get to talk for a living. So that's super cool.
Isn't it? So how did you get over that? Because again, that's part of your identity.
Yeah, lots of therapy because I needed to unpack where did this come from? What is holding me back from going after bigger dreams, bigger goals? And a lot of it came back from I don't feel like I have space for my voice. And so I had to learn how to create space to show up in this world. And I've done some really scary things for, yesteryear Ashley, who would have thought that's a really cool idea. But are we allowed to use our voice in that way? I do a lot of speaking and a lot of training where I'm on stages using my voice to create impact for people, to change lives. I wrote a book and that was probably, oh my gosh, I remember the day it got published, Kristina. Listen, that was the biggest vulnerability hangover I think I've ever had.
Yes.
Have you experienced that?
I have not. Well, I've experienced the vulnerability hangover in various different ways, not from a book, but from podcast episode number 1, maybe.
Yes. I've started a podcast because, you're going to write your words on a page and that's kind of a static way to share your voice. But then you decide, well, why not just push it all the way to the limit and let's start a podcast and share our thoughts and ideas and voice and perspectives and thought leadership and things like that. And it has been a scary journey, but I think anything worth growing into is worth being uncomfortable for. And so that's just the perspective I continue to bring into my work and into my life, even into, my life outside of my business, because my life does not just consist of my business. It consists of my community, of my family, of my friends, of the volunteer, organizations and things that I participate outside of work, and being able to use my voice in different ways in all different aspects of my life has really just allowed me to create a rich and fulfilling experience all around.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it is about bringing your voice, your personality to everything you do and understanding that as business owners, as leaders, we aren't just we can't put our identity into that role, and only that role. We are all the other things. We are the volunteer. We are the mom. We are the spouse. We are all of those pieces, the sibling, the everything else. And when we forget that, when we try to keep it separate, we don't come off as authentic and we're probably not as effective.
100%. I actually literally wrote the book about this. It's called Transform Your Stories. And what I shared in that book was my personal journey going from, at times having the confidence and taking up the space to use my voice to advocate for myself or what I wanted or what I needed, to finding areas that still I was holding back and I wasn't showing up as my full self. And so it's interesting that even if you tackle it in one area and you become really proficient at using your voice or taking up space there might still be other areas that you hold back or you feel like this might be too much or I'm too much. And so part of Transform Your Stories is about identifying those areas where we're holding ourselves back because of the stories we tell ourselves, because of the experiences that we've had that have led us to believe whatever it is we believe about ourselves today. To me, a lot of, again, therapy, a lot of journaling, a lot of sitting with, why did I make that decision? Why did I hold back? Why didn't I speak up? What would I have said if I would have given myself permission to be fully present in that moment? And those types of exercises really continue to allow me to show up fully as a human. And don't get me wrong, like, I am not perfect at this, which is exactly why I wrote the book. I wrote the book for you. I wrote the book for me. I wrote the book to continue being able to push myself outside of that comfort zone and to use my voice in new, impactful ways. And there's times where I will mull over something that I said where I was like, oh, this is a time where it would have been great if you just didn't talk too much. So I still find myself in that situation. And I think that's very human of us, right? We're not ever going to be perfect at it, but we can continue to grow into using our voices more.
Exactly. And I think it's about like taking those times when you're saying, why did I do that? Or why did I do that? Or why didn't I do that? And it's taking that time to reflect, like you said, like journaling, maybe talking about it with a coach or a mentor, or somehow working through it, because there's a reason you feel that way. And just feeling the shame, if you only feel the shame around it, you only feel that regret around it, you're going to stay stuck. So making that transition from that shameful feeling to, okay, now what can I learn? What can I do? How can I move forward with it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes
so important. And sometimes you just have to sit in the suck.
Yes.
Some things are just hard and some things are just uncomfortable. And if you do it once and you decide this really isn't for me, that's okay. But don't not try because you're scared to use your voice or whatever your superpower is. There's a lot of different things that we are criticized for as children or told we're too much in one way or another. And so maybe yours isn't that you talk too much, but maybe that yours was you were too messy. And maybe you're a really creative person who has incredible skills in drawing or sketching or painting or fiber or whatever type of art form it is. And now you use that to bring joy to other people and to create and to whatever it is that your mission is in life. You're too talkative, you're too messy, you're too active, you're, whatever. You question things too much, whatever it is, whatever your thing is. I think we can all make more space for that.
Absolutely. I know for me, when we were talking about it, I was quite the rule follower as a child, but but as a leader, I was actually told I was too approachable. And that I'm maybe too friendly and laugh too much and to have too much fun with it all. And I find it hilarious now because it is that level of approachability that brings people to me and that fun that I bring, but also like that's what I try to help leaders become is approachable. Because if you're not an approachable leader, then no one's going to bring the problems to you. Nobody's going to come to you for help, and they're going to hide it from you because you're unapproachable. So it's an interesting twist that I was able to use that overly approachableness.
Yes. I feel that so deeply. And you're so right. If people can't bring you their problems, their concerns, their worries, they're going to hide them. And those problems are going to snowball because they're not going to go away because somebody ignored them or because you weren't approachable enough for them to bring it to you to help them solve it when it was a minor thing, when it was just a question or just a concern, but now it's snowballed out of control and it's created some bigger catastrophe that we absolutely have to address.
Exactly. So having that regular touch point, having that ability to build that relationship where you can be approachable, but still hold boundaries and accountability that are key.
It's both and. It's not either or. They're not mutually exclusive. Did you see my Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever I was up on the internet the other day where I talked about this as well? But mine was, as a new leader, I was told you're too compassionate.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. People are going to use you as a doormat. They're going to run you over. They're not going to respect you. They're going to take advantage of you. Okay. So I have to use a club and just beat people over the head with it.
Yeah. But that is that's the idea that people have in their head is what a good leader is or a strong leader is. Like to be too compassionate, you must not be a strong leader. And to be too approachable, you must not be a strong leader. Me growing up, my leadership time in in manufacturing world, it was me and a bunch of, middle-aged men typically.
Yeah.
So it was the example I was trying to follow was all of the middle-aged men that I was around. And so my laughing, my keeping it fun, keeping it light, my almost smiling as much as I do, which I can't help. I literally cannot stop. Like that was seen as bad. And I would get that feedback. And it's like, well, stop doing that. Like, be more serious. Bring it down a notch, And I'm like, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that's not me and that's okay.
Yes. Yes. I worked in a very male dominated industry as well when I was very first starting out. And so I was trying to mimic what I was seeing because that was, quote, acceptable. That was what people expected of you and expected to see. And they didn't expect to see someone running around who dare they have joy and excitement and enthusiasm. And I found that when I tried to act the way that my middle-aged male counterparts acted, it did not go well for me. It was only when I finally saw another female leader who was able to demonstrate the balance between compassion and empathy and setting expectations and creating an accountable team that I was able to say, oh, we can have both.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
let me try that. And that felt so much better. It felt so much more aligned. It felt natural for me to step right into that and to also balance that compassion and empathy with how do we get things done? How do we make sure that we're setting clear expectations and we're delegating effectively and that we're not becoming a crutch for our people or becoming a doormat, because skewed one way or the other, both sides can be really toxic and super ineffective. But the balance of them, the harmony that they create is what really creates that highly effective leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I did just a podcast about this the other day about the culture in which you're in and how that culture either brings out certain traits or squashes down other traits. And I think we both experienced the squashing down part. One thing that comes up for me, like when I think about some of the toxic workplaces that I've seen or I've worked in or helped people in, is that they very much want you to have no boundaries around your time in these toxic workplaces. And it's that lack of boundary that gets promoted and it gets like encouraged. So lack of boundary around time, but like that will, like if people don't have boundaries here, they're going to also struggle with boundaries, with accountability, with everything else. So it's actually super interesting, like how both ways, right? Like things that are probably good for us that get squashed, and then other things that are maybe bad for us that get risen up.
Yeah, it is. It's like two sides of the same coin. The things that you were not praised for as a child, but you were criticized for as a child, become things that hold you back. But then toxic things that you're really good at, people pleasing, no boundaries, working 90 hours a week. Hello, I worked so many hours in corporate because I was always trying to please. Like, am I doing enough? Am I promotable? Am I this? Am I that? Da 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 da. And it was exhausting. And I know we've talked before about it leading to burnout and it leading to not the goals that you wanted to have in your life, because I didn't want to work 90 hours a week, 80 hours, 70 hours, whatever it was, because you're missing out on life. All you do is work and go home and go to sleep, and then you go back to work. And that's not a life to live. And so you hit the nail on the head with, some things that we've been praised with in our corporate jobs or in our community work or volunteer work or other places, that those self-sacrificing behaviors is where everybody else gets to take advantage of you, but you don't get to really show up and leverage your skills and your time that you have on this earth. Like, this is the one life that we know of that we get to live. And so I don't want to spend it working nonstop for somebody else.
Exactly. Now I love my work. So I do really actually like it. But at the same time, I still want to spend the time with my family, with my kids, with, doing fun things that is not work. As much fun as this is always fun.
100%. And I love my work too. And the amazing clients that we get to work with. I know it's such a gift to be able to choose the people that you work with, because in corporate, you're kind of just forced to work with whoever shows up in whatever project comes on your plate. But being able to be really selective and get to choose. But we often create toxic work situations within our own businesses because that's what we've been conditioned to believe is productive and successful. And it's just not.
Exactly. So we've both seen that where like that we're conditioned to believe what success looks like. How do we change it? How do we realize it for ourselves, and how do we change it in our culture?
Yeah. I think the first thing is allow yourself to dream. If you had your dream culture,
Mm-hmm.
what would that look like? And it is not ping pong tables in the break room and yoga classes offered, for your team. Like those things are extracurriculars, we'll call them. The things that truly build culture is, how do you want to feel when you come to work? How do
Mm-hmm.
you want your people to feel? What things did you dream for when you were working that, soul draining corporate job? I always dreamed of having Fridays off and having a 3-day weekend. So that's what I built into my business. I was like,
Lovely.
I don't work Fridays. I only take client calls Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I like Mondays to be able to set myself up for the week and to be able to be prepared. So that way, when Tuesday through Thursday comes, I can be fully focused. I can be spot on with my client work, with my speaking opportunities, with creating,
Mm-hmm.
presentations and things like that. And so I think we have to start with what feels really nurturing and supportive for us, and how many hours a week do you want to work?
Yeah.
What kind of vacations would you like to take? What does that look like? What would you like to offer for your team when you have a team in place? What's something that you wish you would have had? Maybe it's having paid, paternity or maternity leave. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's having, a flexible work schedule policy where people don't need to work a set schedule every single day of the week just to have, quote, FaceTime. They
Mm-hmm.
can, come to work and get the work done as long as it's getting done and we're moving in the right direction and we're meeting our milestones and our project goals and deadlines and clients are happy. Who cares? I don't care if you do it at 3 a.m. If that's when you work best, go for it.
Yeah.
And so it's being allowing ourselves to push back on the status quo, to say, just because Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 has been the norm. And trust me, anybody who's worked in corporate knows that it is not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It's like 24/7 round the clock.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We drag that into our business, but we have the full agency to say this can be different.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a good starting point would be, what's irritating you about your business right now, the way that you have it structured and set up,
Mm-hmm.
and how would it look if you could do anything you wanted to in the world to change that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that, starting with like what's frustrating you right now, because like basically if something's frustrating you or something's making you angry, then there's something that you feel is wrong or you feel is an injustice in some way. And so it's like, we'll start with that. Is it, and then you can discern at that point, is it a perspective shift that I need to make, or is it something that I actually do need to do something with and change it, make my own culture, break the rules a little bit.
Yes,
Do whatever that is. Yeah.
Like, you have the opportunity to create a radically different company culture than anything you've experienced before. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy, because we're going to have to break some bad habits and shift some of those mindset shifts that we've had, or the way things have always been done, sort of perspectives that we bring with us from toxic workplace cultures and bad boss baggage and all that stuff. Make one small decision and change today, and then see how it goes, and then make another one and make another one. And before long, they start to waterfall, where you're like, why would I ever do that? Let's do this instead. And you're like, yeah, we're finally getting it.
Exactly. I know from my perspective, like the big eye opener for me was understanding my working genius and understanding that there are things that I naturally am going to be very good at and get energy from doing. And there are things that I'm not going to be. And trying to stuff myself into these things because I should, because that's what leaders do, or that's what I'm supposed to do, kind of rules. When I would just realize that, well, I could just do it this way. And that's okay. Like that was, sometimes I think just grabbing a hold of something and a self-awareness that you can name can really help you with that first step as well. So like, if it's frustrating you, then deal with it. But if you're having a hard time even seeing that, because maybe you're like me and overly rule following, like realizing that, oh, there is something about me that sees this differently or works differently or is different, and that's okay.
Yeah. And if you have a hard time dreaming, get outside of your social bubble and meet some new people who are doing things differently, that even you might sit back and say, ooh, I don't know if that's right for me, but have a conversation with them. Because what that does is it helps us to see that there are many, many different ways to have a business that runs differently. And there's so many creative ideas out there that you don't have to have them all yourself. Like, beg, borrow, and steal from other people. Like, that's a really great idea. I'm going to implement that in my business. And if it doesn't work for you or it doesn't fit, guess what? You can leave it behind and you can try something different. And I think that's the beautiful thing about owning a business. In corporate, there were 86,000 layers of red tape to get anything done. And when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar organizations, it takes a lot of effort to make a change, even a micro change. In our businesses, we're quick. We can pivot fast. We can make decisions that we can actually implement today. That's what's so exciting. So if something's not working, throw it out. If you want to try something new, add it in. But try not to change everything all at one time, because you also don't want to wear yourself out, wear your team out, confuse your clients. You don't want to generally make chaos.
Exactly. Yeah. I find it very helpful to use the language of it's an experiment. I'm going to do an experiment. And then you only make a couple of changes, maybe set a time frame. I'm going to do it for 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever that is, and assess. And that's an experiment. So nothing in our businesses, especially in the size of businesses we're running, but even in a larger business, nothing is forever. Nothing is permanent. Conduct your experiment, assess the results, make a decision or a tweak or whatever it is that you need to do to align it better with your thoughts and feelings and what's working for you and what is not.
Exactly. And if you look at some of the most successful businesses in the world that have been around for 100+ years, they have had to make changes. They have had to evolve. They have had to change policy, process, culture, all of those things, because otherwise they wouldn't be here. And we talk a lot about Blockbuster, and that was kind of their downfall. They just didn't change. And so everybody was like, well, we don't need you anymore. And so that's also something to kind of look to and aspire to, is that even these multi-billion-dollar organizations, whilst change can be slow and it can be sticky and it can be hard to get that change into place, it still happens. And it happens just on a different scale. But change has to happen in order for us to evolve and to stay relevant and to find fulfillment in our businesses.
Absolutely. It's like the one constant is that there will be change.
Always, always. If you don't like change, having a business is not for you.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, Ashley, this was so much fun. And I just want to thank you for bringing your story, bringing your insight, bringing your experience to my listeners on this podcast. So just before we wrap up, what's new and exciting in your world? What's happening?
Oh my goodness. So many things. So I have a whole new brand and a name change, and we're just changing everything. If you want a short lesson in how to change everything in under 8 months, just let me know. But I'm really excited to be doing this work, to really be focusing on women's leadership development in women-owned businesses, because we have the ability, the potential to create so many positive impact ripples in the world, because we think differently, we lead differently, we have different goals and ambitions and ways that we give back and invest in our teams and our communities and our families, that we need more women leading the way. And we need to own our voice. And I'm here to help you do that. If you need to own your voice in learning how to set clearer expectations, or how to delegate effectively, or not be the crutch for your team, those are the areas that I really specialize in and love to work with women on. So that's what's new and exciting. I've got some LinkedIn Lives coming. I've got some speaking engagements coming. Podcasts are coming out. Lots of places to just connect and learn and to be in this work with me.
Amazing. So much fun. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I am on 3 of the major social media platforms. LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time, so you can find me there, Ashley N. Cox, and then on Instagram and Facebook at ashleycox.com.
Thank you so much. And to my listeners, thank you so much for listening today. Reach out to Ashley if you are a woman in business and would love some mentorship. And if you like today's episode, please like it, subscribe to it. I cannot speak today. Subscribe to it, share it with a friend, leave a comment on the YouTube, and just share the wealth out there. And most of all, leave a review, because those reviews are how we share the knowledge. We get the algorithm working for us. So share it, leave a review, and tell a friend. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.